Raina Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your rant line, rave line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that rave line! Woohoo! Oh, I can't believe USC is 7-5 again. Oh no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 572, coming to you on Wednesday, November 6th. We are back to talk about USC and Washington, the Trojans, going on the road to Seattle and losing yet again another road game, lost in the Big Ten. The Trojans are 5-4. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the sacking, not in the football game, but in the depth chart of Miller Moss and the promotion of Jaden Mayava, and so much more. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, Rant of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rant of Troy, email address, rantoftroy@fansite.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227. Second What's Brewed Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, along with my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio in Los Angeles, Lisa Derritolo.
Hello, everybody.
We're back. We're back in LA. We are back from Seattle. We were there. What was it, 5.5 days? Something like that. Good time.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Do you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, we had Halloween there with family. That was really fun. The game was...
It was a game.
Was fun until it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't fun, and then it was fun, and then it wasn't fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Fair, yes.
Sure.
True. It was, as always, this season, a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that for the rest of the episode. But it was really good to get away and to just be a fan for a weekend and hang out with family and do all that kind of discover that the best eggnog in existence is in the state of Washington. So
well, they have a lot of access to whales there, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, that would of course would make sense. It was a good time. The game, second time we've been to Husky Stadium.
0-2 at Husky Stadium.
0-2, but incredible place. It really is. Like, it's a little. It can get a little much. Every other sentence is the greatest setting in college football, right? But like, they're not wrong. You know what I mean? They're not wrong. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a great, loud, beautiful stadium.
It's a great, loud, beautiful stadium. It's a great setting. It's a beautiful area, all of that kind of stuff. But in 2024, the year of our Lord 2024, bench seating is a decision. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Everything else, awesome. Really great. They had an excellent cider available at the concessions. And because of the rain, the concessions at times, or the concourse at times, was like being like cattle being led through a pen or something like that.
It was raining. If you were unaware, it was raining at the game.
But it was mostly raining the way that it seems to rain every time we're in Seattle, which is
just a mist.
It's like a general mist.
Yes, until the last 5 minutes of the second quarter.
Yeah,
and then it proceeded to just dump. And
dump sideways.
Yeah, it was very fascinating because you could look up into the lights and you could see how the rain was coming down in different directions.
Yeah,
depending on which light you were looking at and looking at the rain in front of it. But yeah, it's proceeded to dump, and then we go into halftime. Everyone's packed in the with the rain. But Husky Stadium still raucous, of course. It's a game that SC turns around in the second half, but ultimately, per usual, didn't get the win. And yeah, you mentioned the bench seating. Cam in the chat says bench seating at the Rose Bowl is tough too. Yeah, the Rose Bowl, Husky Stadium, a lot of the stadiums in college football did not read the Taylor Report.
Nope.
Didn't do it.
Nope.
Did not do it. Anyways, a lot of stuff to get to. Obviously, there's big news at quarterback, but I think we need to talk about the game first, just because we haven't talked about the game first, and then we can get to the quarterback stuff after that. Is that cool with you?
Yes, that works for me.
All right. Before we do, Alicia, one of the things that I was super pumped about going into the game on Saturday was going over to my trusty dusty Underdog fantasy app.
Mm-hmm.
I had Woody Marks. I took the higher the projection. I think was like 90-something yards rushing. I took higher. Will Rogers, it was 21.5 completions. I'm like, that's going to be a higher. Took the higher. Mekhi Lemon, 11.5 fantasy points. Like, I feel good about that. Let's take the higher on that. And then I think it was the longest pass reception for Zachariah Branch. I believe it was 20 yards. And I took the higher on that too. Hit on every single one, baby, over at Underdog Fantasy. Check it out for yourself. Over 5 million fans are already playing at Underdog Fantasy across 33 states, including California. Underdog has all the top leagues, teams, stars to choose from your favorite USC football players to Trojans in the NFL and the NBA. You can mix and match sports. Think of your favorites. Go look at their stat projections, yards, touchdowns, catches, three-pointers, whatever. Cook up some entries to win real cash prizes all football season long, even basketball season, hockey season, whatever, into baseball season when that comes around too. Download the app today and use the code Reign of Troy to get $1,000, up to $1,000 bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog. So download the app and use the code Reign of Troy to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly, and see if you can match my little 4-stat projection entry that I did last week that I felt really good about. So
at least somebody felt really good coming out of that game.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you got to. UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and President, a state where Underdog Fantasy operates, including California. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, let's get into it. USC and Washington, the Trojans, lose 21-26. Another game. I think that if I just told you this right off rip. All right, ready?
Yep.
There would be 2 fourth down plays in the fourth quarter that did not go USC's way. The Trojans would lose by less than a possession, less than a touchdown. On the road, there would be a back-breaking Miller Moss interception that directly led to Washington points. And SC had a fourth quarter lead. And SC lost. If you were told that before, would that sound believable?
I would ask you if you were referring to a previous game that USC had played.
Yeah.
And that maybe you were looking at the wrong stat sheet because that was a game that USC that was before. That was a couple weeks ago.
I'm sorry, I was referring to Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Minnesota.
Yeah.
Hold on. You're just getting word here. Sorry, that was Maryland I was talking about.
Gotcha. You sure it wasn't Penn State?
I mean, wasn't on the road.
That's
Penn State
true.
wasn't on the road.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Washington. USC loses 26-21, a game in which they led 21-20, which was my score prediction going into the game, albeit ahead. Washington winning by a point. But SC goes down at the half 20-7. They roar back with a great third quarter, 14 points. Looked like they could get some more, and then Miller Moss throws an interception. Washington scores 6 to start the fourth quarter. Don't get a 2-point conversion, so it's 26-21. The Trojans have 2 drives to go down and win the thing. First one gets stuffed at the goal line with a goal line stand. Woody Marks gets stopped for a loss of 3 on a 4th and goal from the 1. And then SC's defense gets a stop by the help of a boneheaded 12-man penalty for you. If you're a Washington fan and you lose that game, say SC comes back and scores in the last minute, the 12-man penalty would be maddening.
Well, there would be so much. Whoever lost this game was going to be so maddened by
absolutely
it's just that USC was on the wrong side of it, and Washington gets to go out and be all happiness. It was. I don't think it was a great game for either team in the end. There was a lot of sloppiness, a lot of weird stuff on both sides. It's just, in the end, the results on the scoreboard is what dictates how you respond to a game.
Right.
And for USC, it didn't matter that Washington tried to give the game away. USC is not capable of going out and winning a game. So.
Yeah. All right, your general thoughts about the game SC's lost to Washington?
I mean, aside from the I've seen this all before situation, I think that this team is in past weeks, I think I said this team was mentally weak. I think maybe that's harsh thinking back on it, but this team is unclutch for whatever it's worth. The quarterback's not clutch. The offensive line's not clutch. The receivers aren't clutch. The defense isn't clutch. I think that ultimately is what goes down to it. You some teams have the clutch gene and some teams don't. And this team, of all of the USC teams that I've ever watched play football, is the least clutch I have ever seen. This is a better football team than several of the teams that I've watched play at USC before, but none of them were as unclutch as this team. This team is. I'm very frustrated because USC converted 50% of their third downs. USC, had almost 300 yards passing and 160 yards rushing and won the time of possession battle and didn't give up any sacks and, all of these things that should point to a win, 5.7 yards per carry, all of that kind of stuff. And when it comes down to it, you are simply, again, not going to win a game where you commit multiple turnovers on the road. -3 turnover margin. It's a miracle USC, and let's call it -2 because that interception at the end was whatever. But still, it's.
Wait, hold on. You mean the?
No, sorry, the interception.
Hail Mary.
The interception at the end of the first half. Yeah. But you're just simply not going to win games where you have this many turnovers. And we're going to get into the quarterback change. And people know that I've been a defender of Miller Moss for a while now, but you look at the losses that USC has suffered, and a consistent theme of all of them is turnovers. And if that's going to be what USC does, turnover margin is a predictor of success or failure. And USC's turnover margin in these games has just been not good enough. too many, not even just margin, just too many turnovers. And all of those positive stats that I can point to, indicators of success for USC, all of those things get wiped away when you have 3 turnovers and there are 9 points off of turnovers and you lose by 5 points. I don't know. We can get into the running thing because
let's talk about that because
okay.
You put out a little rinky dink in terms of size, not in terms of me besmirching what you did. The little car cast that you threw over on Twitter a couple minutes, and you mentioned the running thing. A lot of fans up in arms about USC, and of course,
because I choose not to run.
Yeah, that's and then this.
I choose not to run.
Yeah, all of it. SC runs the ball in this game considerably less than they threw the ball. 50 pass attempts, 29 rushes. There were only 9 rushes in the first half. There were 20 rushes in the second half. In the second half alone, SC averaged 7.2 yards per carry. They were well over 7 yards per play. They gained nearly 300 yards total offense in the second half. They moved the ball at will. The only time that they didn't was the really short drive in Washington territory where Miller Mouse threw an interception while looking to expand their lead late in the third quarter.
And at the goal line. I mean...
Yeah, I'm saying the only time they didn't move the ball.
Didn't move the ball, yeah.
Because even the last 2 drives, obviously SC doesn't get in the end zone, but the last 2 drives, SC ran 25 plays and gained 129 yards. So they were able to move the ball.
In the second half, they definitely had, the offense was taken over. And
yeah.
That's what makes it so frustrating because the team came out and played better again in the second half. And again, it was those unclutch moments of being at the goal line and not being able to punch it in. And then, at the end of the game, not being able to make it happen. But so...
You've got the running stuff, so take it away.
Yeah, I agree with many USC fans that I've seen on Twitter and elsewhere that USC simply did not run the ball enough in the first half. Part of the reason that USC was so ineffective offensively in the first half compared to the second half is because they simply chose not to run. And trust me, I know all of the things about, like, just because you run it more doesn't mean that all of those runs are going to be at 5.7 yards per carry. Like, it's not 1-to-1 like that. But I still think that at this stage in the season, it would be one thing if you're coming out of, like, the LSU game and Miller Moss has been clutch and gotten the job done. And you're thinking, okay, let's put the ball in his hands. You've now lost to Michigan while attempting 51 passes. You've lost to Maryland while attempting 50 passes. And you get to this Washington game on the road, and again, you're attempting 50 passes. And it's not necessarily because you're playing from behind, because even though USC was playing from behind, they weren't playing from that far behind that it was like you have to keep passing the ball over and over and over again.
Certainly not in the first half.
Certainly not in the first half. By this point in the season, it is very clear, at least to me, and it has been for a while now, that the crux of USC's offense should not be built around Miller Moss. Not just because of Miller Moss's limitations, which he has, but because USC's wide receivers outside of Mekhi Lemon are largely unreliable. And the offensive line clearly prefers to run block, clearly has more success run blocking for the most part. And I think that again, it's just another one of those things where if Lincoln Riley came out in a game on the road in the rain and said, screw it, we are going to control this game by just running the ball down your throat, at least trying that, If he tried that and failed, I could live with it. But he, he doesn't. And there are reasons why USC only has 9 rushes in the first half. And it's not all to do with play calling, because Miller Moss throws an interception on the first play of the second drive. And the first drive they do run the ball on the first play, and then they end up going 3 and out because they couldn't get any more room to work with in that drive. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the touchdown drive that USC has in the second quarter is the one that features the most runs. It's 12 plays, five runs. Woody Marks starts to get I don't think that's a coincidence. And it's very frustrating that USC continues to live in this universe where they're asking Miller Moss to be Superman in a way that Caleb Williams couldn't even, lead USC across the finish line enough.
Right.
When you have guys like Woody Marks and Quentin Joyner available to you as, backs that you just give the ball over and over again and see what they can do. I just don't think that USC philosophically right now, I don't think that Lincoln Riley knows what to do when he has a quarterback that is as limited as Miller Moss, because he's never had to have a quarterback. He's never had to account for the quarterback not being the best player on the field for him. And if he had acknowledged that earlier in the season and said, okay, we're going to lean more on the run game more consistently, I think a lot of things would have changed this season, potentially. That doesn't necessarily take away the unclutch gene that USC's offensive line has when they need to score a touchdown on a run play. So I'm not saying it would fix everything. But in this game in particular, compared to other games, because to me this was Miller Moss's worst passing game, the quality of his passing, the accuracy was off, all of that. It was raining. You were on the road. If ever there was a game to say, screw it, just run the ball.
Bad rush defense, great pass defense.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on this before I give you your turn is that I think that obviously I think USC comes out in the second half and says, we're going to run the ball. And I don't know if they changed something tactically compared to what they were doing in the first half, but whatever it was that they did, it worked, right? So the best example of what I would have preferred to see from USC is on a drive where they still don't get points because of what the nature of this team is. So again, not a perfect fit. But I want to point out the drive that USC has when they're down 26-21, the drive that ends with the 4th down stop at the goal line. There is a sequence of plays where so they run the ball on first down for 2 yards, and then they have a short pass, and then they run the ball on 3rd and 4. Woody Marks gets 19 yards. There's an incompletion, and then on 2nd and 10, Quentin Joyner runs the ball for 4 yards. 3rd and 6, Woody Marks runs the ball for 9 yards. 1st and 10, Quentin Joyner runs for 2. 2nd and 8, Quentin Joyner runs for 4. 3rd and 4, Woody Marks runs for 6. 1st and 10, Quentin Joyner runs for 15. 1st and 10, Quentin Joyner runs for 12. 1st and goal from the 4, Woody Marks runs for 2. And then you get the goal line sequence, right?
Yeah.
That whole sequence, obviously, it's easier to run the ball when you're popping off, 15-yard, 19-yard carries. But I want to point out that, several times on that drive, USC starts with a first down run that is only for 2 yards. But they keep on giving the ball to the running backs, and eventually they pop the one that's not just 2 yards. They go 4 yards, they go 6 yards, they go 15 yards. And it's rush after rush after rush, and you get the defense on their heels. I don't think that USC is incapable of doing that in the first half. And maybe they aren't capable. I don't know. But I would prefer to see USC say, screw it. We are going to run the ball 6 times in a row. And that just doesn't seem like it works for Riley here. It's very rare that he does this.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Okay, so I think, and I like how, first of all, we literally had, you guys missed out that we weren't recording a CarCast because we had like a 20-minute back and forth in the car on the way home from the game about this.
Yeah.
So this is like when you're watching Love is Blind and there's an argument and then you're very clearly watching the recreation of that argument. This is that. I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding, conflation, whatever you want to call it, between running more and running successfully.
Mm-hmm.
SC should run the ball more in general. Just a basic way of saying that. I agree with you. Yes. I also I think fans want to see success.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? The reason that the second half worked wasn't because they ran the ball so much. It's because they ran the ball successfully. The evidence bears that out. Look at the first half runs that Woody Marks has. He has 8 first half runs, 3 yards, 2, 0, 5. That was his longest on a 1st and 15 at USC's, at the Washington 16, a 1st and 15, gain of 5. That's his longest run on the first half. A 1 yard run on a 1st and goal from the 1 yard line. Then 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards. To his credit, none of those 8 plays were negative. But none of them were overwhelmingly positive, except for the 1 yard touchdown. I get it that run the ball more. But now let's compare this to the second half. These are his second half runs. 4 yards, 15, 14, 13, 16, 3, 5, 2, 19, 9, 6, 2, 1, negative 3. What is different? The difference is the success. It is easier to run more when you are having success. Just running the ball more does not mean that you have more success. I agree. In an ideal world, they should run the ball more. But what they need to do is have success. How do you have success? There's a million different ways to do. I don't know that. That's the hardest part, is to have success at what they're doing. And when you and I were having this back and forth, and you're like, well, they needed to run the ball more. I'm like, they weren't running the ball effectively when they did run in the first half. Again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have run the ball more. I'm just saying that it's easy to point out they should have ran the ball more in the first half when they're running the ball and he has literally 4 runs in a row that are 13 yards or more. Yeah, if he was running like that in the first half and they didn't run more, that's a fireable offense. That is not what happened.
Right, but how do you...
And hold on.
Okay.
I thought your best argument, your best retort to this was, yes, but I think you mentioned that they don't run on first down enough. In the first half, half of his runs were on first down. Hold on.
I didn't say that they don't run on first down enough. I said that they give up after running on first down.
Yeah. Hold on. The other thing, I thought the point that I think that is so good that you put out there is that, yes, when the running isn't good, they go away from it pretty quickly, and they don't keep trying. Yeah, I agree. And you also said that Lincoln Riley does not do that when the pass is not working. And yes, that's a completely valid point, because in that first half alone, the offense wasn't working through the air either. You look at the numbers. What is it? Miller Moss in the first half passing 5 of 8 for 23 yards. In the that's in the first quarter. Second quarter, a little bit better, 13-21, 116 yards. But it's not like they were just absolutely gashing Washington through the air. And so, yeah, I think that ideally this should have been a run-focused game because this was a Washington defense that is better against the pass than the run. They're susceptible against the run. And like you said, there were negative plays in the passing game, and Lincoln Riley doesn't have a quick hook for that. I also think that the way that this offense is set up, it's pass to set up the run. Run into light boxes when you've established the pass. I like one of the reasons I think they're able to run so successfully in that second half is because they threw the ball so many times in the first half. You open up lanes, and like so many of those runs in the third quarter, the big chunk runs that Woody Marks had, were running into a 5-man, 6-man box at most. And then the thing that I liked about this USC offense in that the third quarter, and for a lot of the fourth quarter until they couldn't finish off the drives, is that once they were able to run the ball more, Belichick, the Washington defensive coordinator, had to respond by putting more dudes in the box. So you went from having a 5-man box to having a 7-man box. And when you had a 7-man box, what happens? You're able to open up the pass. And they're able to find, Miller Moss finds Mekhi Lemon downfield on a third down for a big score. Like, that's how this offense needs to be working, is the push and pull. It needs to always be a numbers game, because that's what football is. Run into light boxes, throw into secondaries that aren't, completely full of defenders. Like, find the space. And so my biggest gripe about this team is not running into enough light boxes. Yes, I agree. And if you're getting light boxes and you're not running to those, that's a crime. I agree. If you're not having success running the football in the first half, whether you run the ball 9 times or 19 times and you only average 2 yards a carry, it's not good.
Right.
Like, I think SC needs to have success.
No, but again, yes, I agree. Success heals all things.
Sure.
But the push and pull that you're talking about is like if USC was 60-40. What USC was in the first half... I don't think the
ratio matters.
What USC was in the first half was like basically 2-10. 20-80, whatever it is. And I get that you're saying, like, yes, if there's a 2-yard gain, then that you can't justify running the ball more. But there are 0-yard gains all the time. There are 0-yard games all the time in the passing game. Right. And it puts you in first down, 2 yards. You're in 2nd and 8. 2nd and 8, 0 yards. Now you're in 3rd and 8. If you just run the ball again and even if you just get 2 yards, you can work with that. There's a good chance you might get 4 yards because Woody Marks is very good at what he does. Like, my issue with the way that they were running the ball is there was singular runs, especially in the first half. A singular 2-yard run, and then you don't see the run again. Yep. A singular 3-yard run, and then you don't see the run again. Like, that is the issue. We didn't get to see you. I mean, in that second quarter, Woody Marks has 2 runs. He has on 2nd and 5, he gets a 5-yard run. On 2nd and 10, he gets 0. On 1st and 10, he gets 4. There's a penalty that pushes them back to 1st and 15, and then they run the ball again and he gets 5 yards. Like, that's showing faith in your running back that even if there's a 0-yard gain or a 2-yard gain.
There were no zeros, though. Like, the worst run that he had in that third quarter was a 3-yard gain, and that was directly following 4 straight runs of 13 plus.
Yes, but that's my point. I'm talking about the first quarter. If you see the 2-yard run and say, well, he only had 3 yards there, that's it. You can give him the ball again, and he might get 3 yards again, which, sure, by the way, you can work with. 3 yards in a cloud of dust can put you in a situation where you're not in 3rd and 10 and asking Miller Moss to be a hero.
Right.
But also, we have seen consistently throughout this season, for every 2-yard run that Woody Marks has, there's a bigger one coming.
Sure.
Let the offensive line get into a rhythm. Force a defense that has struggled to consistently stop running games to have to live with what USC is trying to force down their throat.
Here's a question. What is the number of touches you want in a first half from Woody Marks?
From Woody Marks?
Genuinely. Number of touches you want in the first half.
I would want to see him touch the ball no less than 15 times per half.
He had 13.
Yeah, because
he was a big pass catcher.
Yes, because
and this is where I think that like, and you know, we haven't rewatched the game. We were traveling, and I would like to rewatch the game because I would like to look more at like.
I rewatched a condensed version, which doesn't really help with this conversation.
Yeah, like I would like to look more into it in the sense of like RPOs. RPOs matter. Because, again, that could change the thing, and a lot of this, ideally, in an ideal sense, the RPOs matter here because if, and I'm not saying that this was the case because there were a lot of light boxes, but if there were heavy boxes, you would pass in that situation. That would be your likely read in that situation. Even if you maybe wanted to run, or you were given the option to run because it's an RPO, right? But I think I go back to the Mike Leach thing from like 6-7 years ago, whenever it was, when he was at UW, and he talked about how, not UW, Washington State, Wazoo, and he talked about like balance. Everybody wants balance. And his thought was like, if you throw the ball to your running back, that's still giving your running back the ball. Like, I don't know. I want to go back and
that works if your balance is actually working in the half.
Right. I
tend to agree with your way of thinking that it's never as simple as just play calling is bad or good or whatever. Yeah. My frustration with this team continues to be, we have known from day one that Miller Moss is not that superstar quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Woody Marks
compared to Caleb Williams,
certainly
he's
not compared to Caleb Williams.
Right.
The strength of your team is Woody Marks. He is your best player on the field. And USC, I get that you can pass to him and you can have him work in the passing game, and that's definitely something that USC does. But at a certain point, psychologically, you need to let your offensive line and the opposing defense know we are going to just get out there and get at you. And USC doesn't want to do that, and it plays into the opposing defense, especially an opposing defense like Washington's, which has a lot of confidence in the pass defense and ended up picking off Miller Moss twice in real time in this game. Yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about Miller Moss. I think we were both in agreement throughout the season. Miller Moss has not been the problem. He has had, his issues, certainly. The Maryland game was not good. The interception at the end of the Penn State game, very bad. There's been moments, but we have been, for the most part, saying that, like, the reason SC's not winning games is because they're not executing at the end of games, no matter who that player is.
Yes.
And it's not Miller Moss individually isn't the one reason that they're losing games, right? And, there's been a lot of calls from Mayava going way back to week 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy back then. And I think the more evidence we've gotten, I think that, there's been more ways to look at it and say, okay, maybe Miller Moss is not the guy long term. Sure. The Washington game, for me, the first game where I think objectively, regardless of how you feel about any other quarterback, this was the point where I was okay with absolutely sort of pulling the trigger, just like Lincoln Riley did. Because to me, we talk about polls. Polls are dimensional, right?
Yeah.
You can only go up if other teams need to go down, right? You can need to go up and everybody wins in front of you, and then you're just not going to go up. Like, that's how it works. I think you could look at it and say, okay, the Maryland game was benchable for Miller Moss, but I think you only get to that point if you are 1,000% confident in Jade Mayava.
Yeah.
The Maryland game was not good. It was his worst game of the season to that point. But in an objective sense, it was not benchable for Miller Moss. It required the utmost confidence in Jaden Mayava. And the whole thing that we've talked about for the longest time is like, Lincoln Riley has shown that because of how he handled the Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams thing, if he has confidence in number 2, he's more than willing to make the change. Because he benched Spencer Rattler, who had won his last 13 games, had a quarterback rating of 172, like 35 points higher than what Miller Moss has. Was objectively way more productive than Miller Moss has been. He benched him. Why? Because he had confidence in Caleb Williams. So if he hasn't benched Miller Moss to this point, I think it says a lot about his lack of confidence in relation to Miller Moss in Jaden Mayava. But the Washington game to me was so bad that it didn't matter anymore. Like, it did not matter.
Well,
like, it didn't matter who the backup was. That was secondary because, and it's not the interceptions. The
interceptions are bad. So
the interceptions are bad, but of the 3 interceptions, there's one of them is very bad for Miller Moss. The other 2, the Kyle Ford one, he needs to catch that.
Yeah.
The Hail Mary, I think the Hail Mary interception.
The Hail Mary is, I'll give him the pass on the Hail Mary interception, but also, if that's your Hail Mary attempt,
it's not a great
Hail
Mary.
Why even bother? I mean, at that point, bring in Jaden Mayava to throw the Hail Mary, because if you can't get the ball past the 10-yard line, then there's no point in even chucking that ball up.
Yeah.
So,
right.
No, my thing is, you and I agree, Miller Moss has not been the problem.
Yeah.
But he has been a problem among many other problems. My problem with the Washington game is I believe Miller Moss was the problem.
I agree. Yeah. I think it was the first time that he was objectively like the biggest problem.
Yes, and that is why, Lincoln Riley basically said this. This is a quote from him after they made the change to Mayava. This was tough. I've been part of a few of these, and it's never easy. There's nothing easy about it, especially when you got a guy that's worked hard and done a lot of really good things. I've had times where it's been easier where the guy just isn't playing very good at all, and the team is getting blown out. That's when it's painfully obvious. Ones like this, where it's a tough call, it's tough.
Yeah.
That is 1,000,000% the issue here is that the problem is that USC was losing games by 1 point, and USC was getting a percentage of good performance from Miller Moss, putting USC in position to win games. And there were a handful of times where he made the mistake that resulted in the loss, like Penn State and a couple others. But then there were also games where he gave the defense a lead.
Yeah.
Going into the final minute, and the defense gives up the touchdown that loses the game. So you can't pin it all on Miller Moss. That's why they didn't make the change. I mean, it's twofold. One reason they didn't make the change is because up until this point, while Miller Moss was a problem, he was a problem on par with Zachariah Branch dropping a pass.
Sure. Yeah.
Kyle Ford dropping a pass. Quentin Joyner fumbling. The defense giving up 4th downs. All of this kind of stuff. And, like you said, we can infer that based on the mistakes that Miller Moss was making, if Riley was confident that Mayava wouldn't be making those mistakes and potentially worse, Mayava would already be playing. So you get that sort of double whammy. But when you're throwing 3 interceptions in a game, when you are missing targets the way Miller Moss was missing targets, and when you're at this point, you are 4-5 on the verge of not going to a bowl game. Mm-hmm. And you have had, you've lost 5 games by, what are we up now? We're at 3
19.
19 points.
Yeah.
Yes, you like the margins there are very narrow, but
Yeah.
at a certain point, you've played those number of games, and Miller Moss has been so unclutch in those games that you haven't been able to get the win.
Yeah.
You are at the point where you have to try something different. So I am not surprised necessarily that, especially with the bye week coming up, the timing on this just made a lot of sense. You need to see what Jaden Mayava can give you. I would have looked at what Jaden Mayava could give me a little bit earlier in the season, but
Sure.
again, the timing is tough. When you're in a position where you get this bye week to set this all up, but
I think it's helpful that it's helpful to Mayava. This is the whole thing is sort of unfair to Mayava how he gets can be propped up and torn down when we haven't seen him, and that's the sucky part about not being able to see a guy. And yes, I know that there was a film from last year, obviously, but you cannot when you see Miller Moss's warts and you haven't seen Jaden Mayava's warts, the impression is that Jaden Mayava has no wart. But that's not the reality of the situation. And I think that if there was a bye week early on, I think maybe that's what prompts Lincoln Riley to make that change. Maybe that buys him some more time with the the confidence in installing Jaden Mayava, because after the Maryland game, like I said, I think the Maryland game was a benchable game for Miller Moss if you have full faith in Jaden Mayava. But it's also very difficult to make that change on a short week when you're traveling across the country and all that stuff. And then he has a really good game against Rutgers. It's a very simplified game plan. We talked about it at the time, that's what the game plan probably should be. Everything worked in his favor. And then he goes to Washington. And when I say it's not about the interceptions, I'm talking about the Washington game, because obviously the backbreaking interceptions in every one of those losses has been an issue, 100%. For me, the reason I say that this was Miller Moss's worst game as a Trojan against Washington, it was the misses. This was the best pass protection he's had all season, and he was the most errant.
There were errant throws earlier in the season that you could understand because he's got a guy coming straight at his face or he's getting knocked down.
And that wasn't the case in this one.
That wasn't the case. Now, this game is probably a product of too many weeks of him getting ass kicked by a pass rush every week, and you do end up ruining quarterbacks that way. But once your quarterback is ruined, you have to be able to pivot, or you'll continue to lose games. Because once your quarterback loses that confidence, it's like Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Yeah, he might revive his career with the Vikings, but once he was seeing ghosts with the Jets, there was no going back.
Yeah, and when you're 4-5, you get to a point where there was I think I got a question on Twitter. Who asked me that? I'm losing it here. I don't have the time to look it up at the moment. Somebody asked me about the record being a factor and trying to go win a bowl game. I think that is a factor. Like a last desperation chance to go win a bowl game. I do think that that's a factor in making the change.
Riley even said that one of the factors was about being fair to guys like Jonah Monheim and the seniors who are playing their last few games.
Yeah, but I think that when you're 4-5, I think there's a factor of desperation, but there's also the inverse that is the same thing, which is at this point, yes, you are desperate. You are desperate, but you also have nothing to lose. It's a lot. And there was a question in the chat from Cam about why did Lincoln Riley announce this rather than keep it a secret for Nebraska? I think at this point, when you're 4-5, you need the positive PR. It's a lot like last year, a year ago, when after the Washington game, Grinch gets his walking papers, right?
Yeah.
There is a sense of positive PR that can be gotten from that.
Also, trying to
you kill a narrative in the butt a little bit.
Trying to conceal this for 2 weeks would have been a nightmare.
Yes.
You just get it out. You pull the Band-Aid off. Let the players get over you use the bye week to let the media stuff blow over.
Yeah.
And then you get a full week of preparation, sort of relatively normal preparation.
And SC's problem is just winning games right now. It's not like, I understand ideally you'd love to just spring it on them, but like they don't have a lot of film for Jade Mayava in this offense anyways. I don't know how much it truly changes things. And SC's got other issues that the surprise is, I think it's just a secondary factor at this point. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that all comes together. We got mailbag stuff. We got over under. Let's get through the over under right now, and make sure that we do it to leave a better taste in your mouth about SC's loss to Washington. Because trust me, it left a good taste in my mouth. Which, I gotta say, it reminds me of like a mini fresh taste, like when you switch to, Mint Mobile, because Lisa, I love a deal just like everybody else, but I'm not going to subject myself to, the proverbial, chasing of that good taste like Mint Mobile is, which is perfect. No hoops, no BS. It's easy to switch over to Mint Mobile. Easily get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. Turns out it's super easy. All you got to do is just go to mintmobile.com/Troy. There you'll see that right now all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the limited plan. All plans come with a high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can get your own phone. You can use your own phone. Bring it along with you to Mint Mobile and your phone number, along with any existing contacts, anything else on your phone, all those hidden pictures, whatever you got, bring it over to Mint Mobile. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month to get this new service customer offer. Get your 3-month plan with wireless for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/Troy. That's mintmobile.com/Troy. Got your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Troy. $45 is upfront required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plans only. Slower speeds above 40 gigs on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Alicia, let's get to the over-under.
So you're going over.
I'm going bold. Give me that over.
I'm going under. I got to take an under here. I got 3 under to take.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right, big week for over-under. We came in. I had a record of 26-22. You were at 22-26. You needed to make up ground, just like SC needed to win a game on the road. Your first over-under was over-under 5.00000. USC's rushing average yards per carry. I took the over. It was over 5.7 yards per carry, thanks to a stellar second half from Woody Marks.
Yeah, and we've been over the running of it all, but Washington had been pretty terrible at stopping the run on the road and pretty decent at stopping the run at home. And USC was able to run on them in the second half. Just would have been nice if they'd started earlier.
Yeah, I agree. Over under for the second one, I said 59.9 completion percentage for the Trojans. Washington has yet to allow a team complete 60% on their passes. 59.9 was the over-under line. You took the over. Alicia, job well done. It was 60.0. Exactly 60, which is
60.
the best completion percentage UW has allowed all season.
Yeah, USC might not have a super effective passing attack, but generally relatively efficient in passing completion percentage.
Yeah, let's go to your next one, which is 1.5 sacks allowed by the Trojans. I took the under. I was under. It was 0. Washington continues to be one of the lowest havoc-creating teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and again, like I think the most frustrating thing about Miller Moss's performance is that it felt like the pass protection was pretty good in this game. I mean, there were a couple little wrinkles there where it wasn't quite there, but he was given a lot of time more often than not, and still the production didn't follow.
You know what the play that drives me insane is? We're at the game next to my dad. We're both yelling because as in the second quarter, he's in the pocket for seemingly forever. Jacoby Lane is just standing on the sideline, not a dude remotely close to him, waving his arms. I'm here. I'm right here. If Miller Moss throws the ball to him when he starts to be open there, it's an easy touchdown. Jacoby Lane could have ran to the Olympics and gotten there before any Washington defender had gotten to him. He could have taken a whole lap around the Puget Sound. But Miller Moss finds him about 3-4 seconds later. It felt like 8 seconds later.
Yeah.
And throws to him. And by that time, the defense has collapsed around him, and he has to, toe drag to stay in bounds. It's just one of those things where you can need a lot of protection. Take advantage of it. Yeah. And he wasn't always doing that. Next one, I said over under 34.5 yards for Mekhi Lemon's longest kickoff return of the game. Washington was god-awful in special teams going into the game. You took the under on this. Alicia, the opening kickoff from Mekhi Lemon, 50 yards right away.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. You'll have to see it. Your last one was over under 41.18% for Washington on fourth down, which was their season average to date. I took the over, and if we need to roll back the tape, I'm pretty sure I said I'm taking the over because it's going to be 50%. It was 50%. The Huskies were 1 of 2 on fourth down.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
All right, last one. I said over under 3.5 Washington Tiffles tackles for loss. You took the over on 3.5. It was 3. Under.
And again, it's the offensive line wasn't bad in this game. They did fine, except for again the moments, the big moment where they just didn't block anybody. And the penalties were really, really tough. From Mason Murphy, that was rough. So it wasn't a perfect performance from the offensive line, but if this was the performance you were getting from the offensive line for the whole season, I think you'd be fine. It was fine. It's not disastrous, and USC has come a long way from the disastrous that they were earlier in the season. Yeah.
All told, today I went 5-1 in this game. Over under. You went 1-5, and Alicia, we have separation of the lunar module has been achieved. I am now having a record of 31-23, and you're 23-31.
I don't want to talk about it.
Big ups to a bunch of people who went 6-0. Perfect. How about those route bots fighting on MC? From Palmdale, Monterey, Michelle, HH and HB, and Piuelo all went 6-0. Well done. Let's talk about the season leaders, though. Big change, big shakeup here. Pickle back on top. Pickle went 3-3. Pickle leads with a record of 36. And I believe that's. I don't think I updated the thing. It's not 36-12. It's 36 and.
39-12?
30. Whatever. Pickle has 36 wins in over-under.
Okay.
Second place with 35, so just one game back, is a tie with 4 people. Fighting on MC from Palmdale, +6. +6.
Look at that. Flying up
because
the 90s.
They went 6-0. They are tied with Jensen SC11, Scotty C, and Trevor M, all one game back of Pickle. So it's going to be a tight one.
The season's not over for y'all. It's not over for you.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Vegas spread said SC 2.5 by 2.5. FEI said SC 30.5 to Washington is 24.1. Alicia, you said 27-24 Trojans. I said 21-20 Huskies. It was 26-21 Huskies. All the projections were basically around the same score, but SC does not get the win.
If USC just punches in that touchdown,
yeah, hey,
I'm pretty close.
I thought SC should have gone for it on 4th down, 4th and 4 or whatever it was in the first half when Michael Lance missed a 52-yard field goal.
If that doesn't boing off of the...
But if he hits that field goal, SC just needs a field goal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, they need a field goal at the end of the first drive. They get that, and then Washington probably comes down and scores anyway. So,
yeah, at this point, we simply must assume that this team will figure out a way to lose, no matter what ifs or ands or buts we try to put with them.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's get to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right, let's start with an email from Tony. Tony from the NORPA. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from the NORPA. Another game, another fourth quarter breakdown. The game plan in the first half was horrible. 29 passes to 9 rushes. What was that? A bunch of exclamation points. Miller Moss's interceptions are killing us. Mason Murphy was not good. 4 false starts, and he could have had at least 3 more, and he gave up the 4th down pressure on the last play of the game. The 4th and 1 at the 1-yard line, I don't have a problem with the call, but somebody on the field has to make a change. The blocking scheme, when you see an extra man in the box, Woody never had a chance. The defense couldn't get a sack. They gave up plays when they needed to stop, but overall, I thought they played pretty good. We don't need to carcast because Tony was on all of it.
Tony sums it all up.
Yeah.
On that 4th and goal run, totally agree. Somebody has to take charge on that offensive line. Part of the issue is, and I don't know if it's the exact same play, but Woody Marks scores his touchdown on a very similar play at least in the first half, and I'm wondering if they just tried the same thing again, and this time the Washington defenders sort of knew how to shoot the gap. But it's concerning that it wasn't just one guy who got through. There were 2 unblocked defenders with a line to the running back, or as there was a lot of discussion on Twitter about whether or not that could have been a zone read that Miller or a different quarterback would pull. And my read on that play is obviously you don't know because you don't know speed differences between all these people. But even if that's a zone read, there's another defender that's unblocked. Yeah, that's probably going to get through and get to the quarterback if that's a zone read. So like the play was simply blown up.
The guy who you mentioned is one unblocked. Even if you say that the zone read would have had him commit to Woody Marks, which is possible. Even if that, there's one man you got to beat, which is the man that Lake McCree is blocking. And then you potentially have to deal with the DB who is tied up with the receiver.
And you don't know for sure that both of those blocks will
hold,
be maintained.
And in running, you have to run around Lake McCree. I think there's absolutely a world in which Caleb Williams is the quarterback and he pulls it and he gets in the end zone. Sure.
Well, I mean, I think there's a world where a mobile quarterback.
I think there's a world that Miller Moss could have done it.
Yeah, pulls it and then shrugs off contact to fall in.
But I don't think it's a lock.
No. The bigger issue here is that USC should be able to execute that play without letting the free runner get to Woody Marks' backfield.
Yeah.
Or don't run that play at all. Now, I'm not second guessing the play call because I think that for the most part, I don't mind saying who wants it more. And unfortunately, you have to live with the reality that it's possible that they want it more.
Sure.
Or that they're better prepared or whatever. Like that's if that's what you're going to do, then that's the risk you take. But I don't know.
I understand running up the middle there. I get it. You had success running up the middle all second half. play before. They get down to the 1 yard line, and it's not like that was like a toss or anything. So I understand it. So I think a lot of the criticisms on the play call, as always, is going to be result based.
Yes, because if they throw the ball there, then and they don't get it, then everyone's pissed off that they did.
My two gripes, one of them I feel more passionately than the other. My first one I feel less passionately about is I would have liked something to the outside on any one of those 4 plays, and like severely outside, like not just a little off tackle, but like where is that fly sweep fake thing that they did with Raleek Brown? Wasn't that during the Washington game last year? Or was it Utah? Whatever the hell.
I don't
remember. Was beautiful. Where's that thing, Ben? Bring that back. I want to see that. Some sort of misdirection I think would have been interesting down there. But the one that I feel passionately about, you know where I think SC should have ran the ball? The last play of the game. It's 4th and 4. I think it's 4th and 4 or 4th and 3.
I think it was 4th and 4.
Yes, I understand that the clock is an issue. You don't have any timeouts. But the clock doesn't matter in that instant because you need a first down. If you don't get the first down, the game's over. It doesn't matter. If you get the first down, you do get the clock to stop.
You run and you
can run on 4th down.
And immediately you clock it. You call the run, and then everybody knows if you get it, you clock it.
And I think the run would have been unexpected, and I think that they could have gotten a scenario. Now, obviously, we know that the Huskies bring more heat there, but I think that maybe it isn't just a run up the middle or something. Maybe it's a little slip screen.
But again,
I think you have to anticipate the pressure and find out a way to wiggle Woody through that somehow.
I want the ball in Woody Marks' hands instead of Miller Moss's hands there.
I
because
agree.
When USC has had the ball in Woody Marks' hands with the game on the line, we've seen him do it.
Look at the LSU game. They were running to set up the field goal at the end of the first half, and he breaks out a long run that nearly sets up a touchdown. They were running to set up a field goal at the end of the game, and he scores a touchdown that wins the game. So, yeah, I think there could have been a world in which a run would have been interesting. Obviously, again, everything's results-based. If they run there and he gets stuffed, people are losing their mind that they ran on 4th and 4 with no timeout. So, yeah. Anyways, we got a couple calls from Michael in the 563. Here's both of them back to back.
Hey guys, this is Michael in the 563. It's halftime, and given the way we're playing today and noting that UCLA happened to win their game, it appears more and more that they're going to get the last laugh. I mean, we came in all cocky and whatnot at the beginning of the season, and they were all depressed. And look at reality now, not doing so good. Fight on. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, this is Michael in the 563, part 2. The game just ended, and as usual, Miller Moss can't pull it out. I'm done with him. It's time to go to Mayaba. Maybe he can scramble and get something accomplished as opposed to these throws over the receivers' heads and whatnot. I'm frustrated, but maybe my antidepressant med hasn't kicked in yet, so what can I say? Fight on. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call, Michael, as always. All the calls. We appreciate you, and that's the most relatable thing I've ever heard.
Yep. The the meds are not sufficient this week.
Yeah.
I can say with certainty, but yeah. Yeah, another good couple of calls from Michael. I don't necessarily have much to add because I think he pretty much nails it.
Okay, we got a call from Jack in Denver. It's a great call. The audio is a little rough. I tried to edit it as best as I can. I think he was driving. So instead, we are going to listen to our friends over at Google and the Google translated transcription. I've cleaned it up a little bit, but hey guys, it's Jack from Denver. I'm a first
Please
time.
don't do this the whole way
I'm
through.
sorry. Hey guys, it's Jack from Denver. I'm a first-time caller. I'm going to say that the game just told me a lot about this team. We've been up 8 times in the fourth quarter, and the issue with USC is that the team is not clutch. Miller Moss is not clutch when he needs to be. The offensive line is not clutch when they need to be. Receivers drop passes. They're not clutch when they need to be, and I just don't know what to say. The same goes for the defense. Defense can't be clutch in those big moments as well. Going to be a loss for words for the rest of the season once you actually figure out 16, because we've been getting a lot of comparisons to that time. Then we're going to win football games, but it's just not going to happen now. Thank you guys. Jack from Denver.
Yeah, again, that's a great call. That 100%. I mean, obviously, I agree with that. It's like I said earlier, the least clutch team I have ever seen in Cardinal and Gold.
Yeah, but and this is also why, like, I understand the hyperbolic talk of like, this is the worst USC team you've ever seen in your life. No, if this was the worst USC team that you've ever seen in your life, you would care less.
Yeah.
Like
the problem is that this team is not, like, if this team was worse, if this team was losing,
it would be
worse,
easier.
It would be so much easier to make the changes or to just give up and just say screw it, or, you know, whatever. Like, 2021 was a season where the team was just terrible and we knew, like, and you just sort of like, okay, well, there's that. This team is miles better than that team, and that's why it's so much more painful, because they're so close.
Yeah. It defies logic in a lot of ways that you could hover around it so much and just can't land on it. It's nuts. Let's go to a voicemail from Fred.
Hey, Rant, it's Roy. This is LA Fred calling. Well, now that SC is 4-5 and in real possibility of not even becoming bowl eligible, I wanted to spend this bye week thinking a little bit about the big picture, and specifically Lincoln Riley. I, like most of us, thought at the time he got hired, it was a home run hire. But now that we're 3 years into his leadership, I think it's safe to say it has been a complete and abject failure to this point. And if you say anything other than that, I really think you're lying to yourself. If we give credit to year one for having a generational talented quarterback like Caleb Williams, the Trojans are literally 6-10 in their last 16 games. And that is flat out unacceptable. And as Bill Parcells famously taught us, you are what your record says you are. Speaking of that, I'm getting so sick and tired of listening to Riley talk in the post-game pressers, how we're only a couple plays here and there away from being undefeated. I no longer believe that. I think he's the boy crying wolf. That might have been the case after the first loss or two, but it is not true anymore. Good teams find ways to make the key play that wins the game. Bad teams don't. USC is a bad team. Bad freaking team, man. Jeff Riley's 3-year meal has been brought to all of our tables now. And instead of the multi-course gourmet dinner of success we all thought we'd be enjoying, we are left with the crude reality of having to eat a giant ass burger. Have a good week. Fight on, everybody.
Thanks for the call, as always, Fred. You have a
so
way
good.
with words, don't you?
Here's where I'm at. I am on the record. I don't think this is a bad team. I think this is an unclutched team. I think this is a mentally weak team, all of those things, whatever.
Yeah.
This is all semantics. We can go back and forth about what is bad and what is medium and what is meh and what blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
The crux of it is that in year 3, this program is behind schedule. In year 3, the head coach can't figure out how to take his team from being 1 or 2 plays away to winning. And like Fred said, I get it after Michigan, after Minnesota, even after Penn State. I get it. All those 3 losses, I came out thinking, okay, this is the rough patch. You figure out after Penn State, you got closer and closer. You figure out how to win. USC was closer to winning against Minnesota than they were against Michigan. USC was closer to winning against Penn State than they were against Minnesota. You continue to you figure it out at some point, and then the same thing happens against Maryland, so you didn't figure it out, and then the same thing happens against Washington, so you didn't figure it out. That is on Lincoln Riley, and I think that is a massive red flag, huge red flag, because I could live with the program being behind schedule, knowing what we know about what the past few years have been. The false dawn with you do get a Heisman Trophy out of this. It's not the worst thing in the world. But the defensive changes that didn't get made early enough to put them in position to be ready to go in year 3, all of these things, the factors that would have resulted in USC not being ready to contend in year 3, I could understand if it wasn't a situation where the things that you're paying Lincoln Riley to do outside of the things that are within his control, but also, we are where we are now. He waited on the defensive coordinator stuff, blah, blah, blah. He hires Danton Lynn now. That's fine. But on a game-to-game basis, on a motivating your team to win, on an understanding how to win football games, Lincoln Riley has completely failed on that this year. And again, it sucks because this team is very close. This team is a player or two away. I would recommend everyone who feels like Fred does about Lincoln Riley's press conferences to simply not listen to the press conferences, because there is nothing to be gained. There's nothing Lincoln Riley can say in those press conferences to make it better. So no matter what, you're just going to be unhappy listening to his press conferences either way. So I would just say stop listening to them. But he's not wrong when he says that. But
I think that's what makes it worse. Right?
Yes, because he's not wrong, but that doesn't mean that he's in the right. In the sense that the buck does stop with him.
And you don't have to say it every time, even if it is true.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and there's a certain amount of media savvy that I think Lincoln Riley lacks. That would certainly make his life easier. But what would make his life easier is simply winning these games. And the fact that he can't figure out how to win these games, or couldn't, before this, is it doesn't speak well to his, skill as a head coach.
Yeah.
If it turns out that this quarterback change sparks something in this team and they win the last 3 games, and then all of a sudden it's okay, so a quarterback change puts you in a better position to win, you can still ask questions of Lincoln Riley. And I'm not going to do this because number one, I'm not projecting USC will win 3 games. Number 2, if USC does win 3 games, I'm just going to be freaking happy that they did win those games. So I'm not going to have that conversation later, so I'll have it now. Even if USC wins the 3 games, there will be dissatisfaction because, the reason 2016 played out the way it did is because Clay Helton pulled the ripcord arguably prematurely on Max Brown. Because again, Max Brown was not the problem. He was a problem with that team. But making the switch to Sam Darnold sparked something in that team. If Riley successfully sparked something in this team by going to Maeva at this stage in the season, you can easily say, you should have done this earlier then. Then you didn't sense what it would take to win. So I don't think Riley
then
can
it was
win.
a lack of confidence in Maeva from the beginning, right?
Who maybe he should have seen that he was the answer. And it's a very good chance that he's not the answer, and it'll be more like 2021 when